Hello, everyone. Today we're going in depth into an assessment of one of our portfolio companies. It's called Paul's Muesli. Welcome, everyone, to the Ascension podcast. We've been rolling out a number of podcasts over the last few months, and we'd like to welcome you back once again. We have the full team that's with us today. Many of you will know what our investment thesis is about. We are structured as a 10-year private equity fund, and last year we were fortunate to have closed out on two very good opportunities. So I'm Kabelo, Moja. Most of you will realize that there are two Kabelos on the team, and I am fortunate to be part of the executive team. I've been with Ascension right from the beginning, back in 2018. Now I know you speak a bit of Mandarin.
Yes.
Give us a fun fact about yourself.
Sure. Okay. I think you already mentioned that I'm learning Mandarin, and I guess thanks to you inspiring me to start training for triathlon. Yeah, that's a fun fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good one. And then we've got Kabelo Senoelo, who's our Chief Investment Officer. Maybe you could just give us a few words about yourself, maybe some fun facts. We know you're a DJ.
So that's not fun anymore.
Maybe elaborate a little bit more on your music career.
Thank you. Kabelo Senoelo, as Kabelo said, Chief Investment Officer, part of the executive team. Fun fact, well, other than being a DJ, why do I love music? Because I think it tells a story on different aspects of life. You can literally put together a set that tells a story and puts you somewhere. It can put you in Paris, it can put you in Beijing, it can put you in Benoni, New York. Yeah. And I think it's also quite therapeutic as well. It makes you reflect on, certain aspects of life and just relaxing in general. Yeah.
Tinyiko?
Speaking about music.
You're the founder of the Fun Facts.
I don't know.
Topic. Just a few words from yourself.
I was just thinking when he spoke about music, the one genre he doesn't like, which I recently got into, was amapiano. Yes. So after tearing my ligament, I couldn't run. But the easiest thing to get back into was spinning. And now I'm just looking forward to every spinning ride because we start off with amapiano and I'm just there. Another Gundam style.
I love the energy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's one of the habits. James Clear talks about habits and the 4 laws of behavior. One of them is making it attractive. And so I look forward to spinning because of the music. And that's my fun fact. I'm making it attractive to continue that habit of being healthy and fit.
Oh, fantastic. And that's the team in a nutshell. Yeah, in terms of our mandate, I mean, we've always said that there's 2 key drivers around how we invest. And, the first is just around, being able to meet the human need, and that addresses the world of investments, anything from healthcare to food security, water and sanitation and the like. And I think the second key driver is just around, it's a bit of a buzzword, but innovation. I mean, it can mean so many things in so many different contexts. But I think we've achieved that in the first 2 investments that we closed out on in August last year, literally 12 months ago, almost 12 months. And so we wanted to just talk a little bit around the investment thesis. The first asset that we acquired was Paul's Muesli. We acquired a 45% stake in that business together with the founder, Paul Reiter. And it's an interesting story, just the backdrop. But T, maybe give us a little bit of backstory around Paul's Muesli, how they originated, how they started, and why we found them to be an attractive asset.
Yeah, Paul's Muesli was founded in 1991 by Paul Reiter. He actually used to manage, I think it's one of the City Lodge, one of the hotels, and he was working there, and he was a kitchen manager. And one day they ran out of muesli, and instead of going out and looking for it, he thought, I can make this, I can do this. And he could see the cost at which they were making the muesli, and he thought, I could make this for half the cost. And he went into his mom's kitchen and started making his first muesli recipe. Following that, he rolled it out into a number of the hotels and then into SAA, and then just built on in terms of having Tiger Brands as the first customer. So simply taking over the Simply cereal manufacturing for Tiger Brands. So, and one of the things that we actually like about Paul's Muesli is the fact that it's scalable. You know, he grew from being a sole manufacturer for Tiger Brands to then manufacturing for Kellogg's, and then taking on Future Life, and then Pick and Pay, and then Macro Brands. So you have this platform that's scalable, and it's able to, you know, move into different kinds of customers, and has product innovation in terms of the number of products that it can put on the shelf. And that's what we like about it. And the whole snackification trend is quite big. I mean, coming off of COVID, where people like ready-to-eat meals, simple meals that they can make. In the breakfast markets, muesli is such a simple meal that you can just add yogurt or milk to, whatever you like to add to it. And that's what we liked about it, just in terms of the snackification trend. Another thing was just the impact. So that's one thing about manufacturing is that it's the fourth largest industry in South Africa in terms of its contribution to GDP, around 15%. It also has a major contribution in terms of the labor force as well. So manufacturing is mostly your unskilled labor, and that's where, you know, you're making a difference in terms of employment, in terms of helping to empower people by giving them a salary, you know, in a labor force where it's unskilled. Manufacturing also has the ability to, you can have some operational efficiencies as well. So you can go in, see what they're doing, and how can we do things better, whether it's through systems, whether it's through people, but capacitating the organization to make sure that they're actually doing things in the right way. And that's what we liked about it. Manufacturing is really, it's an industry where you can add value through operational efficiencies and through growing it in terms of employing more people. And I mean, it has a great management team too. And we always talk about people. And you can have the greatest strategy, but when you need the right people to implement that strategy. So the management team has been with the business for a while. Paul being the founder, Kone, the general manager, has been with the business for more than 12 years. And then Bram, the finance and operations manager as well. So a good management team that's been able to grow with the business. And we can see that they'll be able to take the business to a different level now that we're invested in the business.
No, it's a really good insights that you've given. You know, when you talk about the management team as well, I mean, you know, Bram and Corne, you know, I think it's quite important for us to also involve management from an equity perspective, just to show alignment with the transaction itself. But maybe Kebs, on that note, I mean, just the management team itself, you know, how big a factor is that in terms of the broader investment thesis and just that human element of just engaging with, you know, employees, staff, management. You know, sometimes we almost say, you know, you almost become a bit of a therapist in the transaction space, but maybe take us through that journey, the relationship with management, you know, building the trust and getting to a point where, you know, we are able to execute the transaction and grow with the business.
Part of our process, and I think in any investment that we do, the management team is always the most important aspect. I think we've through our experience, we've seen that we have also looked at transactions where we've essentially picked up red flags in terms of management teams, and I think it's a quite an important aspect in any deal. But I think for Paul's Muesli specifically, just looking at Kone and Bram and Paul, they're quite integrated into the business in the sense that they've been working in that company for quite a while. And I think our assessment of just the culture of how that business is run and their commitment towards their employees was quite important. I think they understand the vision that we bring to the company, and they've been quite open to new ideas. They've been quite open to the strategic initiatives that we've put in, without necessarily pushing away at it. It is quite challenging to sort of almost change the mindset with management that was in a business and here comes a new investor with new and exciting and scary ideas in terms of where we want to get to. But I think once they buy into it, there's a lot of support that we get from them. Obviously, there's always we always have to have reminders about why we are doing what we're doing. To allow management to also see the vision outside of us as well, because at the end of the day, we also need to rely on management to run the business on a daily basis. So we can't be heavily involved in the day-to-day operations, but there needs to be that transition period where we do get quite heavily involved and sort of help management with the heavy lifting. But at some point, we sort of need to just step away and allow them to run the strategy. So it's been an incredible journey. I think it's not one that is not easy. It's very challenging, but it's quite rewarding to see it come to life. And we've seen that with Paul's Muesli.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just reminds me, I mean, no two deals are the same. There's so many different factors. I mean, you highlighted earlier on, another transaction that we did work on, where everything sort of ticked the boxes other than the management team, and it was almost a case of just sort of trusting your gut instinct. You can't really do a due diligence on a team, so I think it is a skill that's, is sort of underplayed to some extent. But I think the importance of backing a strong management team can't be underestimated. Yeah. And then, no, I'm not going to attempt to ask the question in Mandarin. But, I just wanted to get your insights. We did a due diligence on Paul's Muesli. And part of that included an environmental, social, and governance strategy and plan. I know you recently put together, or were quite instrumental in getting our first annual ESG report out. So kudos to you for that. But just your insights around the whole process leading up to the investment, the due diligence, and then even just post-investment, with our corrective action plan.
So when we assess the Paul's Muesli opportunity, as with all our investments, we go through rigorous due diligence, and that would be inclusive of financial, legal, tax, as well as ESG. And that's an area that I think that Ascension as a team, adds some value to businesses. So essentially for us, it's a risk mitigation tool. So it's ensuring that this business is sustainable, and where potential risks or gaps are, that we can assist the business to kind of close over time during our investment horizon, to contribute positively to communities, to employees, the environment, as well as just creating a much more sustainable business. So the result of that ESG due diligence was a corrective action plan. So it identified issues around the governance areas, social, where policies were missing, and just various levers that we could actually improve. And since our investment, we've actually been quite instrumental in driving those changes. And I think it contributes very positively, ensuring that governance is improved. We helped constitute a board and board subcommittees. Tinyiko has been very instrumental in that. And starting to look at social issues, because you can imagine Paul's Muesli has a huge labor force in the factory. And the fact that, you need to ensure that the employees are happy and everything is going well in order for the operations to be successful. So it's all these softer issues. It's not directly financial issues. It's more non-financial, but more qualitative issues that are equally important. So that's something that like a journey that we're walking along with the company. And I think it's a massive area where we can positively, impact, the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of, when we were running that due diligence process, one of the things that you took the initiative on was to actually go to the factory and spend a few days, on the floor,
Yeah, on the factory floor.
packing muesli bags
Yeah.
and just getting to know the people and getting to understand the culture and how people interact. So
yeah,
we don't downplay the importance of having that interaction with the team on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's also a bit of a differentiation, in the market, us as a team. Something that doesn't get spoken about much is there's also this character due diligence, culture due diligence. Nobody really mentions that, but it's actually everything. And I think we do invest a lot of time in actually getting to know management on a personal level.
Oh, yeah.
Personalities and character is actually incredibly important. And there can be a lot of red flags that come across. And I know we did, encounter a transaction where there were character red flags. And that's something we decided as a team to walk away from. So I think it's very important. And assessing culture and understanding what it's like, a day in the life of an employee in the factory and understand, what they experience.
Very true. Very true. And I guess on that note, I mean, so we've spoken a little bit about, the process leading up to the investment. But I think one, even while you're preparing your investment thesis and you present to your investment committee, we've always said that, we're already looking at exits, right from the outset. And I just wanted to talk a little bit, T, maybe you can give us some insights just from a board perspective, just in terms of post-investment, some of the, sort of tangible challenges, things that, we are able to sort of influence and things that are outside of our area of influence. But, what has that experience been like for you sitting on the board as well?
I think the key thing was capacitating the board with the right people. And this is important from a management perspective, is around implementing strategy. And then you need the right people for oversight as well, and the right people who can challenge the management team. And one of the things we did was bring in Noel Dole as the independent chairperson of Paul's Muesli. And he is the former CEO of Tiger Brands. And the important thing around bringing in someone like Noel is that, it's when you're around high-performing people, you also become a high-performing individual. And having his expertise and his experience becomes sort of like a mentorship role for the management team, because then they're also learning when he's asking the right questions in a board meeting. And when we contributing as well by asking the right questions, challenging management, the way they're thinking, that also opens their minds into new opportunities, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. And a lot of the times, Paul has also said to us, he's like, I would never have thought of that. Thank you for your contribution and just the value that we're bringing to the company, because it's just a new way of thinking for them to really just drive value in the business. So that's just been one of the things, capacitating the board in terms of having the right people to challenge the management team and just open their mindsets around the possibilities of what this business can do. I think the other thing is really just around, managing the personalities and ensuring that everyone is motivated and has the same goal and is aligned. And I think Cab said it now, it's the management team who are going to implement the strategy, and we have to give them a vision and a purpose that's bigger than just the fact that we're here as investors. I mean, nobody likes being told what to do. I'm a rebel at heart. I hate being told what to do. But someone will do something if they have a bigger purpose, if they know where this is going. And by instilling this purpose in them and making this role exciting they will be the ones to come to us and tell us what they're doing actually. So it's almost giving them ownership, whether it's through an incentive structure, whether it's through giving them feedback around what they're doing, but giving them a sense of ownership so that they can see that everything that they're doing is contributing to the business, and drilling that down to even the second tier management team and the person on the floor. How do you create that culture where everyone is doing something, where they feel there's a purpose at the end of it? So I think from a board perspective, it's really drilling down to that person on the floor and ensuring there's a culture of performance, because at the end of the day, we do have to return capital to our investors, and we want to make sure that we have a sustainable business that can continue even after we've exited. So it's having the right people in play and ensuring that that drills down to the very last person on the floor.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it speaks to a little bit of what Naairah was talking about as well, in terms of also just the culture of the organization, and you know, recognizing talent and being able to nurture talent, you know, in-house, and just bringing out the best of the workforce, as well. That's so important. Kabs, and then to you, I just want to ask you a more sort of general question, just in relation to sort of expectations, you know, from our perspective as a fund, as well as from management, and just aligning and making sure, you know, our expectations are aligned at the outset. And I suppose also, you know, just from an investor perspective, I mean, we obviously communicate with investors, you know, fairly regularly, at least quarterly. But what's that journey been like for you from your perspective?
If we take a step back, the whole point of why we do what we do is to essentially generate returns for investors. So that journey starts with obviously assessing a transaction, making sure that it stacks up in terms of the investment thesis, most importantly the valuation, and the strategy and the growth story that business will go through. So at the end of it all, investors are going to look out for whether we've actually returned capital as we promised, at the right rate of return. And how that then translates into the journey with management is that, you know, at the outset, we will test out, you know, let's say the forecasted numbers in terms of what the business will do from a growth perspective, in terms of the initiatives we'll put in terms of increasing margins, you know, increasing revenue and having an optimal capital structure. So that journey needs to be set out quite clearly with management teams. I think management teams obviously will be highly focused on, call it the operational aspects of the business, but that all links into, at the end of the day, the output in terms of the numbers. And I think, you know, it's quite important to, at the outset, set out our goals in terms of what our expectations are throughout the investment horizon, and also management being able to understand that we need to exit at some point. That alignment is quite important. And, you know, throughout that journey, the business is going to go through a lot of changes. As I said earlier, I mean, some of the initiatives that we put in place seem to be a bit scary for management teams, but I think once they understand what the benefit is for the business and for themselves as well, they sort of align into it. And you always have to remind management that this is what we're working towards, regardless of, you know, the short-term challenges, as I can call them, that we experience. We always need to focus on where are we actually going as a business. And that's essentially that's our last deliverable, right? Is to exit. So, and you know, that journey throughout that process is it's not an easy one, but I think it's one where we almost always have to get, you know, alignment between ourselves and management on how that looks, so that, you know, going into the business, we leave it different to what we invested in at a particular point in time. It also, I mean, there's also an element of, call it emotions attached to it, because you almost want to build something throughout that investment horizon, but have a big impact on everyone in the business and not just from a financial return perspective. And that's where, the stories around ESG come through, the culture, and how you leave that business is quite important, because it wouldn't make sense if we make like a 40% IRR, which is, touch wood, what we're all targeting in all our investments. I nearly said, can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hallelujah. It's not being church. But you don't wanna leave the business, with a good return, but you leave it in bad shape essentially, because I think what's key is creating sustainability around that. 10 years post exit, you wanna look at that business and say, we were once investors in that business, and that story still continues to carry itself out. And we've left it with a huge element of pride as well. So it's quite important that we always keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, I mean, we do need to return capital to investors. So
no, absolutely. But I mean, what you're touching on, I mean, it's your baby.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a portfolio, 3, 4, 5 assets, each of them, you've put in blood, sweat and tears to literally to get over the
and
line.
blood. Lots of blood. Yeah.
Lots of gray hairs and the like.
Yeah.
But also remembering, love is not ownership. So yes, it's your baby, but you have to let go and let management do the work.
Exactly.
You can teach as much as you can but the principles will be there. It will be hard coded into the strategic action plan that we've put together. But love is not ownership. The management team have to implement.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. So we've gotten some nice insights, and I think on that note, we'd like to just thank the entire Ascension team for all your inputs, really valuable. And I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed and is listening to this podcast as well. Please do stay tuned for more episodes. For more information, please feel free to reach out to us on our website, ascensioncapital.co.za. Thank you, everyone.